Welcome to Starbound, where every star tells a story. What if the key to overthrowing a monstrous alien fleet lay not in brute force, but within the mind of a single human girl with a secret? Let's get into the story. Kira's world lurched and groaned around her. The acrid tang of recycled oxygen filled her nostrils as the guttural roars of the Preulian crew echoed down metallic corridors. She hadn't seen the sun in weeks. They had torn her from a human supply ship, a scuttlecraft they'd called it, a floating coffin barely worthy of their notice. They hadn't even bothered to kill the crew, just snatched her and warped away. They kept her alive, a curiosity, a pale, scrawny creature of bone and meat, fascinating in her weakness. Kira played the role flawlessly, eyes downcast, movements timid. Inside her skull, a different creature stirred. One of code and circuits, a neural network that thrummed beneath her flesh, woven into her brain since childhood. A dangerous secret, one she'd never dared use on such a scale. They paraded her before their officers, their cackles a chorus of amusement. "Observe the human," one had rasped, amusement tinged with disdain. "Their reliance on primitive, fleshy bodies is their downfall." Kira clenched her teeth, her knuckles whitening where she gripped the metal cot in her cell. Their condescension ignited a cold determination within her. "Primitive," they hissed. "Let them keep thinking so." Days blurred into a haze of stale food trays and furtive exploration. Each time the guards cycled, Kira watched unnoticed. Her eyes might seem dull and blank, but behind them her true mind raced. The Preulian ship ran on technology not entirely alien to her. Her implants, a controversial relic of a childhood she barely remembered, hummed with potential. A risky, desperate potential, but her only chance. The seed of a plan began to grow within her mind. With painstaking care, Kira tested the limits of her access. In the endless dark of sleep cycles, her mind stretched out, a digital ghost traversing the ship's systems. Each Preulian terminal became a puzzle to solve, each firewall a thrilling challenge. They saw a passive prisoner. They didn't see the girl who'd spent her childhood rewriting the code of household drones, turning them into her silent army. She was light years beyond their petty lockouts. She found what she needed, nestled deep in the labyrinth of the warship's inner workings. The Preulian network was built on efficiency, designed to channel vast amounts of data to a singular decision-making hub. That hub, she discovered, was the captain's personal terminal, buried beneath layers of encryption stronger than any she'd encountered. The challenge only hardened her resolve. She started small. A misfiring ventilation system, a flickering light panel, malfunctions so minor that the Preulians dismissed them as glitches in their aging ship. They never once suspected the primitive human girl huddled in her cell. Each glitch became a lesson, each malfunction a crack in their technological fortress. Kira's confidence grew, her implanted interface whispering the ship's secrets to her. Then came the news that set her heart pounding. The fleet had a target. Another inferior civilization deemed ripe for conquest. The Preulians chattered gleefully about the coming slaughter. The noises emanating from their bodies were in anticipation of spoils and glory. A cold rage burned through Kira. They wouldn't take another world, not while she still breathed. She knew the risks, the near certain death if she failed, but the alternative, the annihilation of another species, was unthinkable. Her fear transformed into icy focus. It was time to stop playing the docile captive. The rebellion of one would begin. Kira laid her trap with meticulous care. Her sabotage would not be a blatant revolt, but a creeping malfunction, a technological virus burrowing into the Preulian ship's core. She pinpointed the systems ripe for exploitation: life support, communications, power grid. The first attack was audacious. For a single heart-stopping minute, the entire ship plunged into darkness. Klaxons blared, the Preulians roaring in confusion and panic. Kira hunched in her cell, a quiet smile playing on her lips. Let them feel a taste of vulnerability. Order was hastily restored, but a seed of doubt had been planted. The ship itself, always a tool at their command, suddenly felt like a capricious beast, lurching out of their control. Doubt turned to suspicion as the malfunctions continued. Food synthesizers spat out acrid sludge, comm systems garbled transmissions, oxygen levels dipped precariously in certain sectors. The Preulians, accustomed to the unquestioning obedience of their technology, grew frustrated. Then, afraid, their engineers swarmed over the faltering systems, desperately seeking a tangible fault to mend. Kira escalated, her implants working at their limit. She hid her digital fingerprints behind cascading errors, making it appear like their ancient ship was simply disintegrating. The Preulians scrambled to repair the damage, blind to the fact that their enemy was not time or entropy, but a simple human girl curled on a metal cot. Her implants burned hot against her skull as she drew closer to the ship's core. But she could taste victory now, sharp and metallic on her tongue. It fueled her, pushing back the exhaustion, erasing any trace of hesitation. With her mind wired into the system of an alien warship, she was more powerful than any Preulian soldier. She was a ghost in the machine, the architect of their undoing. The final stroke was brutal in its simplicity. Their targeting systems were her first objective. Precision was key, but her focus wavered. Below them, a world awaited its doom, its inhabitants oblivious to the monstrous fleet hovering above. The Preulians chattered about optimal firing patterns, eager to unleash their destructive power. Kira shut out their voices, a wave of nausea threatening to overwhelm her. This was no simulation. If she failed, lives would be snuffed out like candles. Forcing herself back into the cool logic of the code, she rewired the targeting coordinates, replacing the unsuspecting world with a different input. The coordinates of the Preulian fleet itself. Panic flared in her chest. If the Preulians detected the changes now, they could override them. It was a gamble, a terrifying gamble for the highest stakes imaginable. Next, their weapons systems. Every gun, missile, and energy beam on the fleet had the power to obliterate cities. It was that same power she turned against its masters. Kira pushed her implants beyond their usual limits, feeling her pulse roar in her ears. Discomfort was irrelevant now, only the code mattered. With a final surge of effort, she linked the weapons grid to the corrupted targeting systems. The Preulian fleet was poised to fire upon itself. The moment of truth arrived. On the Preulian bridge, officers barked orders, their guttural voices crackling with triumph. Weapons powered up, systems hummed, and Kira, unseen, unheard, held her breath. The first blast ripped through the void, not towards a hapless planet, but towards their own flagship. Chaos erupted. Klaxons screeched, a symphony of terror as the Preulians realized their horrifying mistake. Emergency overrides failed. Their weapons turned traitor. Kira watched through a hacked security feed as the flagship shuddered under the onslaught, shields collapsing and armor buckling in upon itself. Across the fleet, panic spread with the speed of an inferno. Ships careened, desperately seeking to escape the crossfire. Some fired back, blindly lashing out at the unseen enemy, only adding to the mayhem. The once proud Preulian armada disintegrated into a maelstrom of destruction. Kira staggered back from the terminal, the neural link snapping brutally as she overloaded the systems. Pain lanced through her skull, but it was a distant thing, barely felt above the rush of adrenaline. Her plan, the ridiculous, desperate plan, had worked. On the bridge, the Preulian officers were a tangle of fury and fear, their arrogance shattering against the harsh reality of their defeat. Some reached for their weapons, their eyes burning with mad defiance. Others knelt, the image of their shattered empire crushing their spirits. Kira, in her dim cell, shut her eyes. She had taken lives this day, broken bodies and minds. It was a bitter victory, born of desperation yet still a victory. Weak, they had called her. Fragile. If they survived, they would never make that mistake again. But that was a concern for another day. For now, her immediate task was clear. With shaky fingers, she patched herself into the flagship's communications array. It was time Earth heard from their so-called primitive captive. High Command. Kira's voice crackled out amidst the dying screams of the Preulian fleet. This is Secret Agent Kira, reporting from the former Preulian flagship. Mission accomplished. The Preulian threat has been neutralized. Flagship is ready for occupation, awaiting further instructions. Kira never heard Earth's reply. The comms channel was flooded with static and the panicked cries of the remaining Preulians, but she knew, deep down, that they heard her. That her message, dripping with victory, had cut through the chaos of the disintegrating fleet. Earth knew now. They weren't alone in the galaxy, and they weren't easy prey. Her role aboard the crippled spaceship was far from over. In the following days, she became both jailer and savior. She used her control of the ship's systems to seal compartments, cutting off Preulian escape attempts and aiding in their capture. Human vessels, small and fast, slipped through the remnants of the fleet, guided by Kira's knowledge of the warship systems. Some Preulians fought to the bitter end, their hatred overriding their survival instincts. Still, others surrendered, their broken spirits mirroring the wreckage that had once been their invincible fleet. News spread like a workplace relationship through the human ships. The tale of the pale, fragile girl who single-handedly crushed an empire passed from crew to crew, whispered in awed tones. Kira, Agent Kira, the ghost in the machine, became a sort of legend, her true appearance, her history, a delicious mystery to those hungry for a hero. Yet, Kira herself was focused on the practical. The flagship, scarred but functional, became a prize beyond measure. Teams of technicians swarmed over its captured systems, learning, adapting, cannibalizing the alien technology for their own. Under Kira's guidance, they isolated her interface, studying it cautiously, seeking to understand the delicate interplay between human and machine that had proven so devastating. It was, Kira knew, a double-edged sword. Her actions had saved countless lives and perhaps altered the course of humanity's fate in the cosmos. But she also carried a heavy knowledge. Humankind's curiosity, their constant striving for improvement. Could those same traits lead to new ways of dominance, of devastation? Weeks turned into months. The Preulian threat, once dire, receded into the realm of intelligence reports and tactical analyses. Earth buzzed with cautious optimism. They had learned, they had adapted, and they had survived. Kira, on the other hand, found no such peace. The quiet of her new quarters aboard a human station felt less like a reward and more like a cage. Press conferences were replaced with endless debriefings, medical tests, and the unspoken fear in the eyes of scientists who looked at her less as a savior and more as a fascinating specimen. The implants, once her secret weapon, were relentlessly examined. Researchers eager to unlock the potential of human-machine synergy debated their extraction and replication. Kira watched silently, fear coiling in her gut. To have them removed was to cut out a vital part of herself, yet the potential for their misuse was terrifyingly clear. She was the only known human to be able to communicate and adapt to such technology. Attempts to replicate this often ended in failure, either subject's brain function being fried or the equipment being nothing more than a HUD for communication systems. She began to have nightmares, visions of code twisting and wriggling from her control, a faceless scientist prodding her with cold instruments. Nights filled with the screams of the dying Preulians, their monstrous forms twisted in agony because of her. One morning she woke with an unshakable resolve. Approaching her superior officer, a woman with stern eyes and graying hair, she made her request. "Agent Kira?" the officer asked warily. "You're sure about this?" "Positive, ma'am." Kira straightened her spine. "I would like to request reassignment to the Exploration Division. A ship, a mission, something far away from here." "The interface? Your abilities? It's a tremendous asset." The officer frowned. "It's also tremendously dangerous." Kira's voice was quiet, but firm. "Let others learn from what I've done, but let it be under controlled conditions, not pointed at another fleet." Surprise flickered across the officer's face, then faded into a reluctant respect. "Very well, Agent. I understand." Kira's reassignment came swiftly. Within weeks, she was assigned to a long-range exploratory vessel called the Horizon. Smaller and less militarized than a war cruiser, the ship nonetheless was armed with the technological lessons learned from the Preulian debacle. Her official role, as far as the regular crew knew, was as a tech specialist and an analyst, her implants a carefully guarded secret known only to high command. Exploring the uncharted sectors of the galaxy brought a certain solace. Each new star system was a puzzle to decipher. Every alien world held the promise of undiscovered beauty instead of terror. Kira found purpose in pushing the boundaries of human understanding, a far cry from the cold calculations of war. Still, old habits died hard. While others marveled at nebulae or studied the biosignatures of distant planets, Kira's eyes were drawn to the ship's vast computer systems. They sang to her, a tempting melody of potential power. Each night, with the crew asleep, she would connect, a silent observer, learning the rhythm and flow of the Horizon's inner workings. Not to control, she told herself firmly, but to understand, to protect. During a routine survey, the Horizon stumbled on a distressing discovery. the remains of a small colony, charred and lifeless. The culprit quickly became clear: a pirate vessel, likely scavengers preying on the weak. Fury flared within Kira. It was a cold echo of the Preulian arrogance, the certainty that might made right. Yet this wasn't a faceless empire, but individual lives snuffed out for petty gain. A decision hardened within her. The Horizon wouldn't simply report the crime, they would stop it. Tracking the pirate vessel proved surprisingly easy. The scavengers were sloppy, leaving a trail of detectable emissions and hacking attempts. Kira, officially off-duty, spent sleepless nights subtly altering the Horizon systems, tightening the net with every passing hour. It was the familiar thrill of the hunt, the adrenaline-laced pursuit of a cunning foe. When the trap finally sprang, even the Horizon's seasoned captain seemed perplexed. The pirates, anticipating an easy target, found themselves locked down, weapons offline, engines failing, escape pods sealed. A meticulously timed surge crippled their comm system, leaving them isolated and confused. It was as if the Horizon itself had become a predator, luring them in with false vulnerability before striking with surgical precision. Kira watched from the shadows as boarding parties in sleek battlesuits secured the pirate vessel. There was no grand battle, no display of her power. Instead, the pirates were neutralized with swift efficiency, apprehended without a single casualty. She had helped, had saved lives, without becoming the monster some feared she could become. Yet, in the aftermath, as the prisoners were shuffled to detention cells and the relieved crew of the Horizon exhaled in victory, Kira couldn't shake a sense of unease. The battle was easy, too easy. The pirates, cruel as they were, seemed like amateurs compared to the Preulians. Had humanity become overconfident in their newfound strength? Was there a complacency lurking in the hearts of the crew, a belief that no enemy could truly challenge the Horizon, especially not after their triumph over the Preulians? Back in her room, she stared out at the vast indifference of the stars. The universe was not neatly divided into good and evil, predator and prey, as her actions against the Preulians once seemed. Out there, somewhere, were likely other dangers, other threats that made pirates seem like squabbling children. Had her defiance against the Preulians simply painted a larger target on humanity's back, drawing the attention of something far more sinister lurking in the unforgiving depths of space? The possibility chilled her to the bone. The next day, Kira sought out the captain. The older woman, stern and weathered, had an unspoken respect for Kira, a knowledge of the hidden depths behind those quiet eyes. The pirates, Kira began, choosing her words cautiously. They seemed poorly equipped, more opportunistic than a real threat. It worries me. The captain nodded slowly. You're not wrong, Agent, but even scavengers signal something. A shift in power dynamics out here, a desperation perhaps. Something has changed. Kira felt a flicker of vindication. It wasn't complacency, the captain saw it too. Permission to expand the observation net, ma'am? Discreetly. Long-range scans, comm chatter analysis, anything hinting at unusual activity in neighboring sectors. Granted. The captain's voice was firm. Keep me updated personally, Agent Kira. Sleep evaded her that night. Instead, she plugged herself into the Horizon system, not for control this time, but for observation. Searching, listening, her mind alight with a mix of apprehension and anticipation. Humans were no longer frail creatures hiding in the darkness, but neither were they masters of their own destiny. Not yet. The next threat could come from anywhere, at any time. It might be an advanced empire with overwhelming technology, a hive-minded insectoid swarm with incomprehensible goals, or a cosmic horror that defied human understanding entirely. Kira, the ghost in the machine, refused to be caught unaware again. Her implants hummed and her thoughts burned as she scanned the emptiness beyond, her eyes boring through the darkness like lasers. If another threat was out there, she would find it first, and if humanity faced another war, they would be ready. For better or for worse, her actions had shaped her fate, and perhaps the fate of the entire species. It was both a terrifying and exhilarating burden.